My best friend slept with my husband, so I exposed their affair live on her podcast, but the truth cost me everything, including my children. The voice note was still playing when I realized I had to destroy her completely. Look, Sarah, you weren't keeping him satisfied. Men have needs, honey. If you can't handle that reality, maybe marriage isn't for you. Jake deserves someone who actually wants him. My best friend of 12 years, Mia Rodriguez, speaking about my husband like he was some neglected pet she'd rescued. Like our 8-year marriage was a convenience store transaction. Like our 2 beautiful children didn't exist. I'd found them 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday that started like any other. Jake's phone buzzing at 2:17 a.m. with her name lighting up the screen. Can't wait to feel you inside me again tomorrow. 23 unread messages from my maid of honor. Photos that seared into my retinas and will haunt me forever. My Mia, the woman who held my hair when I had morning sickness with both pregnancies, telling my husband she loved him more than I ever could. That I was cold as a corpse and didn't deserve a man like him. The screenshots felt like holding molten metal. Voice notes where she called me pathetic, frigid, a terrible mother who was too wrapped up in those kids to be a real wife. Text messages planning their sordid meetups while I shuttled Emma and Luke between soccer practice and piano lessons, completely oblivious. 6 months of this betrayal. 6 months of her sitting at my kitchen table every Thursday morning, drinking my expensive coffee, hugging my children, laughing at my jokes, while secretly planning to steal my entire life. I read every message. Listened to every voice note. Saw every photo. Jake telling her he'd leave me when the time was right. Mia promising she'd be the stepmother my kids actually deserved. Plans for their future that erased me completely, like I was just an inconvenient obstacle to remove. But Mia had one critical problem she didn't know I discovered. She'd been engaged to David Chen for 2 years. Posted about their wedding planning constantly on her Instagram. Her podcast Living Your Truth had 50,000 devoted followers who thought she and David were relationship goals incarnate. Perfect life, perfect love, perfect lies wrapped in motivational quotes and ring selfies. She had absolutely no idea that David had reached out to me the previous week. Sarah? This is going to sound completely insane, but I found some disturbing messages on Mia's phone about some married guy named Jake. She was talking about leaving me for him. I know you two are practically sisters. Is she cheating on me with your husband? His voice was shaking. This man I'd met dozens of times at dinner parties and barbecues, who'd asked my advice on proposing, who called me his future sister-in-law, was falling apart in real time. I told him everything. Showed him every screenshot, every voice note, every piece of evidence I'd collected. His face cycled through disbelief, rage, devastation, and finally something I'd never seen before in another human being. Pure, crystallized betrayal. When I mentioned her podcast taping live every Thursday night, broadcasting to thousands of devoted fans, he went very quiet. The silence stretched until I thought the call had dropped. She'd always said you were jealous of her success, he said finally, his voice hollow. Said you resented her independence, her career, her happiness. Guess we know who the real liar is. We made our plan that night. Jake found me packing the kids' clothes at midnight, methodically folding their tiny shirts and pants into suitcases. He didn't say a word at first, just stood in our bedroom doorway watching me dismantle our life with robotic precision. When Luke wandered in asking why Daddy looked so sad, Jake finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. Mommy and Daddy need some space, buddy. You're going to stay with Grandma for a few days. The silence that followed was deafening. No screaming fight. No tears. No begging for forgiveness. Just the sound of my marriage ending in real time, punctuated by the zip of luggage and my son's confused questions. Thursday arrived faster than I expected, like an execution date I'd been dreading. Living Your Truth live streamed every week to thousands of devoted followers. Mia in her perfectly curated setup, engagement ring sparkling under professional lighting, talking about authentic relationships and radical honesty in love. The chat exploded with hearts and fire emojis. Relationship goals. Queen behavior. Teach us, Mia. Her devoted audience eating up every word from the woman who'd been systematically destroying my family for half a year. I joined as a surprise guest speaker weeks earlier when I pitched surprising your best friend on air. The irony of that phrase wasn't lost on me as I waited in the virtual green room, watching her perform for people who had no idea who she really was. So Sarah. She chirped, all fake enthusiasm and venom disguised as sisterly love. What truth do you want to share with our beautiful community tonight? Her smile was pure poison wrapped in Instagram filter perfection. She thought she'd already won. Thought I was the pathetic, oblivious wife who'd never figure it out. Well, Mia, I wanted to talk about friendship, about trust, about what happens when someone you love more than your own sister betrays you in the most devastating way possible. I shared my screen, pulling up the first screenshot. Like when your best friend of 12 years sleeps with your husband for 6 months and tells him you don't deserve happiness. Her face transformed in real time. The perfect smile cracking like expensive porcelain hitting concrete. The chat exploded into chaos. Question marks and shocked face emojis flooding the screen faster than moderators could keep up. I read the messages aloud, my voice steady despite my hands shaking. Her voice notes calling me frigid, worthless, a failure as a wife and mother. The explicit photos she'd sent Jake. The plans they'd made for their future together. All of it laid bare for her audience to judge. And speaking of living your truth, I continued, watching her face go pale, I have a very special surprise guest tonight. Someone else who deserves to know exactly who they're really engaged to. David appeared on screen, his face a mask of controlled fury. Mia's perfect world imploded in real time, broadcast live to thousands of strangers who'd looked up to her as a role model. "Hello, fiancé," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Hope you're enjoying your truth session." The viewer count hit 15,000 and climbing. Screen recordings were already being uploaded to TikTok and Twitter. Her comment section became a war zone of betrayal and shock. I watched her career die in real time as sponsors tagged her demanding explanations and followers unfollowed in droves. But the real punishment wasn't the public humiliation or the career destruction. It was watching Emma ask why Aunt Mia couldn't come to her 7th birthday party anymore. It was Luke crying because Daddy moved to the sad apartment and won't tell me why. It was realizing that in my quest to destroy the woman who'd betrayed me, I'd also destroy the only stable family structure my children had ever known. Jake's lawyer called Friday morning with divorce papers already filed. He'd moved fast, using my public meltdown as evidence of instability. Vindictive behavior not in the children's best interests, the documents read. He got primary custody within 6 weeks. I became the weekend parent, the disruption in their routine, the cautionary tale whispered about at school pickup. Mia moved across the country, her podcast canceled, her engagement ended, her reputation destroyed. But she disappeared into anonymity while I remained trapped in our small town, forever known as the woman who chose revenge over her children's well-being. Jake remarried his kind, stable co-worker last month. I watched their happiness through mutual friends' carefully curated social media posts like a ghost haunting my former life. The victory I'd craved tasted like ash and regret. Some wars aren't worth winning when the battlefield is your children's hearts.